when I came back east, part of the deal with my mom was I would go into my dad's electrical contracting business. A lot of it was doing the business part and the management part, but some of it was doing electrical work. A little while after that, I had met the Sufi sheikh, and I started studying, not always so directly with him, because I lived in Westchester, New York. I would read things. A funny story was I was looking, like the main teachings of Jalaluddin Rumi are in this book called the Math Nowi. And I couldn't find a copy of it. It was before Kindle. Like now you can buy the Math Nowi online for $4. And, back then I would go to Weiser's, this bookstore in New York City that specializes in spiritual books. I would call them up every once in a while, and all of a sudden they didn't have any copies that were printed. And all of a sudden they said, "We got one in." I said, "Save it." It was $212, I remember. I paid for it gave my credit card and went there. And I opened it up. It was this beautiful leather-bound book, and I was so excited. And the introduction was in English, but the rest of it was in Persian. And I was like, oh. I was like, right, but I bought it anyway because it was so beautiful and it had such a nice energy to it. And I ended up, so the part of how I got into this as a career was I got in another kind of small car accident going to one of the electrical contracting jobs. And then after that, I didn't get hurt in that accident at all, but I woke up the next morning and my shoulders and back were so tight. I just knew I needed a vacation. So I went up to Vermont to visit a friend, and he's the one who I eventually gave the book to because he was a friend in the Sufi groups.
Sorry.
That's okay. So I went up to Vermont, and he was a Sufi friend, and we went there. I was married at the time, and he was able to translate Persian books. So I actually gave him that book because I knew that, even though I liked it, it was beautiful and it had a nice feel to it, he could actually use it. He also, at that time, he suggested that I try a Polarity Therapy treatment. And I didn't know what that was, but I took his word for it, and I went and got a Polarity Therapy treatment. Polarity Therapy is a very gentle body work where you're really just holding like points, this is one of them, but you do something with your other, so you're always doing either, left and right or top and bottom, and you're balancing these points. But I had such a profound experience, and I guess I was like 25 by this time, and I just felt old because I was working, like most days, too many hours between construction, and even the office was like in a warehouse, cold and damp and stuff like that. And I felt so good. I got off the table. I felt really good. I had cathartic experiences, memories from childhood, all this stuff. I was going to get off the table and complain because it seemed like she said it'd be an hour. I thought it was less. I looked at the clock. I was on the table for 3 hours. It was just this really great experience. And then she said to me, "You should continue." And she happened to know someone near where I lived that did Polarity. So I started getting treatments from her. And after a while, she said, "I'm starting a class. I think you'll like it." And I loved it. And it was a great way to take the thing with my hands getting hot, and actually start applying it to working on people more, knowing what I was doing in a systemized way. And that led to doing that as a hobby for a while. One day I just realized I am sick of doing the electrical work. The work itself I like doing, and some of the jobs are really good. A lot of the jobs it's just very businessy. A lot of it was arguing with people about money. Part of the way you make money in electrical contracting is you get a job and you have to bid, so you're putting in a low price. Then you try to find the mistakes the engineer or the architect made in the contract so you could charge more money. And it's, the good people that I like to work with were fine with it because I was finding mistakes and they knew their building was being built better. But some people would be fighting about money a lot. So one day I decided I'm going to switch gears and make my hobby into a career, and it took off really well. And I learned techniques for manifesting during that time. And for some years, a lot of people who had heard about it said, oh, help me do that with my business. And I still do that today, help businesses. It's kind of cool. Yeah, I did this whole, I wrote it out. It was like 4 pages long, very detailed what I wanted to create in my practice, and did these processes that I know to make that happen on the physical level. And it worked out very well. So my practice took off very easily. Another part of it was I got an electrical job working for the county of Westchester that it was for the county penitentiary system redoing their offices. All the other work was done by the inmates, and I wasn't allowed to be there at the same time as them, which meant, in my quick thinking, so in the contract it says you need to work from 8 to 4, and I realized I could ask them, can I work from 6 to 2, and then in the afternoon and evening focus on my practice. Part of what I did is I just called everyone I knew and asked if they wanted to try a treatment for me, and after doing that I connected with some people who loved what I do and started telling their friends, and it took off pretty quickly. It was great. Part of it was that decision and doing the manifesting techniques and starting to charge people. That's the difference right there. And that's always, like, now I'm very comfortable with it, but doing something spiritual, even every once in a while now people say, oh, you shouldn't charge, but I have to make a living, and I have learned that people paying, it helps keep it balanced energetically, that I'm not doing it for them. They're kind of, they're paying me to do it, so it's them doing it themselves. It evolved from me working hands-on with people. I started doing crystal healing. There were some other things. I started doing very deep massage work, and then, I always studying, always learning, and then I shifted to doing more purely spiritual stuff. And part of it now is almost always I'm talking to people about past lives. When someone comes to me and they're having an issue, whether it's health, physical health, emotional stuff, mental, or even business, relationships, there's usually a pattern from a past life. And by seeing what that is and talking to them about it, that energy starts to clear and helps them quite a lot. It's the coolest thing in the world. That's all I can say. It's so cool.